So we're doing a reaction to it's just ketchup. They are a friend of the channel. We don't talk much these days, but they're a friend of the channel. Um, they did a video recently on the survivors and what Pokemon types they would be, and I did the same thing when Asimovs did this for the killers. And I thought it would be fun to just kind of react to this and give my opinions as the Pokemon's guy. I mostly relaxed and had some corned beef brisket for dinner. I don't think I've ever had brisket in my life. Go support the homie, by the way. Go watch this video. He posted another video today.
Pokemon. Expecting me to explain this once was embarrassing enough. Expecting me to do it again is just insulting. You read the video title. You already know what we're doing. It's time for the run back as we hop back into this Pokemon type topic again. Only this time by a request of you guys and the fact that I liked making.
One criticism to this. He's not using the theme from Pokemon I use all the time, the Electropop, whose name I forget.
We'll be doing survivors this time. The same criteria that I ranked killers by, their powers, their lore, etc. will be used again for this, but with one major difference. Thanks to the lack of powers or unique traits and the fact that survivors are pretty much just skins of each other in-game, we'll be factoring their teachable perks this time as compensation if applicable. Although do keep in mind, many of these are just regular people at the end of the day, so don't be surprised if normal and fighting types show up a lot here as opposed to dark from last time.
Yes, that one, Kit. Thank you. I use that theme in like everything. I love that fucking song. It's so good. It's so good. The children demand Electropop. Or Electro Swing. It's so good. No, I get what he's going with this. Like, there's going to be a lot of normal types. I can already see it coming. I hope he gets a little bit more creative with it, though. That was my biggest problem, like, criticism whenever I see a lot of these, especially on the killer side. I feel like people get way too samey, and it's like, oh, every killer is a dark type. Every killer is a normal type. Every killer with, a weapon is a steel type. Like, I want to see something, like... I want to see some, like, unique, like, types come up.
Survivors than killers to yap about, so let's not waste any time and hop in. Before we begin officially though, there's a couple suggestions and types from the last video that I saw in the comments that I want to go over first. The most frequently brought up one I saw was Vecna being part ghost as well, thanks to him being an undead lich and constantly just unable to truly die.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah, I can't bullshit my way out of this one. I completely overlooked this detail since I was super tunnel visioned on the spells when thinking of his type, so I will definitely give him this as well. The second one I'm willing to adjust is Hag, since a lot of people felt like ground was a better choice since it would fit the mud and swamp aesthetic better than grass. Honestly, I think either of these types could probably work with air and are pretty much interchangeable, so I'm down to add ground as an alternative. Finally, the last one I'd like to adjust is Doctor. No, I'm not making him fairy like I did as a joke initially, but I remember someone suggesting Psychic due to his electricity causing madness and spawning in hallucinations of him and pallets around the map.
Oh, I like that.
Actually a pretty good point. He does indeed mess with your mind that way in-game, so I am willing to slot Psychic as a secondary type for him. The rest of the killers I'm not budging on, but I do want to add the one killer I neglected in that video since he wasn't in the game yet. Henry Creel, or Vectuna, or Vecna, that's whatever. He will be Psychic Poison. Psychic is extremely obvious given his powers in the show, but Poison was given due to his association with the Mind Flayer and the Hive Mind, being able to infect people with Mind Flayer particles and work under him and the Mind Flayer. Ice was considered again for the same reason I gave Demo the type, but
So I've seen Random Game Enjoyer, I've seen a couple people saying that the map has kind of been figured out. What I will say is I would still give it a little bit more time. I'm probably going to be playing Pursue on it, and if she doesn't do well on it, then I think it's probably just a bad map.
against it since fire doesn't seem to affect him directly as much unless other parts of the hive mind get affected by it.
Hi, Miller.
With all this finally out of the way, let's jump ship to the survivors. Survivor poster boy and locker enthusiast Dwight is up first, and there's not really a whole lot to go off of here for these
Electric
early survivors. I went with normal electric here for him, as he's just a regular guy with pretty decent leadership abilities when he's given the chance in the realm after he got ditched in the forest by his coworkers. While electric is here since he's considered the gen repair focused survivor of the original force, thanks to Prove Thyself.
I think Dwight being pure normal would have made the most sense. I feel like he's the most basic of basic survivors, and he's like the catalyst for everyone. So him being flat normal to me would have been fine.
Other than that, there's not really a whole lot else to really add here. Meg is next, and yeah, she's just pure normal. She may have decent lore regarding her being a runner, so I was thinking maybe ground initially, but
She's fast. Make her electric type. She should have been normal electric. I feel like I swapped Dwight and Meg, and you're good.
there wasn't really a whole lot else to go off of here, since I'm not really sure how running and helping care for her mother is supposed to equate to a Pokemon type. Maybe Fairy could be included, but I don't know. Kind of a boring start so far, but we finally have something to work with our next survivor. Claudette, I've elected to give Grass Fairy.
That makes
Claudette
sense.
has a lot of experience around planets and is very likely to have made the non-Bloody Party streamer and Escape Cake offering, since they're all flower and plant-based, while she also has Fairy thanks to her perk selection, making her the designated healer of the original 4 survivors. Overall, I'd say this type makes perfect sense for her given this information. Jake would be grass normal due to the fact that he spends a lot of his time living close to the wilderness. He originally had his life laid out for him thanks to being the son of
I know he's going to be using normal a lot, but for some of these, I really think you could just ditch the normal. Also, I think Fairy could have worked for Jake because he lives in the woods. He's like a fey gremlin creature.
a wealthy family, but he left the grid and left to live by the forest due to their lifestyle not really fitting him, as well as the pressure of his father to accept the family's lifestyle. That said, it doesn't sound like he lives in the forest, unlike someone like Huntress, but he'd rather just lives very close by and likes the solitude he gets from it, which is why I chose to give him normal as the secondary type here. Nia was a tricky one to do initially, but I decided on Poison Dark due to her.
You know why you give Nia Poison Dark, chat? You know why you give Nia Poison Dark? You give Nia Poison Dark because of this guy. This guy right here. That's why you give Nia Poison Dark. It's literally like I mean, he's poison normal to be fair, but you know, giving Nia the dark part because of the. You could have actually done just poison normal, honestly. I feel like he was just trying not to make every single survivor normal type. Oh, don't bring back the Nia's entity theory. Come on. Come on. We're in the big 2026. We don't gotta do that.
History of acting out and rebelling when she was forced to move to the US and began tagging everything she saw and sneaking away from the authorities. Most characters like this in Pokemon tend to have one of or both of these types, so I figured it'd suit Nia fairly well, given her lore. Lori and Bill I'm going to lump together due to both of them sharing the same type and are close on the list, being pure fighting type.
Okay, I think fighting does make sense for Lori, 100%. Bill, though. Does fighting make sense for Bill? Yeah, I guess he's a soldier. Yeah, Phalanx. Yeah, just Phalanx alone, yeah.
It shouldn't be too difficult why both of them have this. Lori was the sole survivor of Myers'
Draw it, Kit. Draw it.
Successfully fought back against him, not to mention being
I'm not
the
asking.
Decisive Strike or Will to Live if you lack the discontinued Halloween DLC. Meanwhile, Bill is a war veteran who later ends up in a zombie apocalypse survivor group against the green flu outbreak. These two were overall pretty easy ones to pin down. It's the type that definitely fits their backgrounds the best. Ace I was originally going to give pure normal on account of just being a regular guy and nothing more, but I later decided.
You know what? Ace is a gambler. You gotta make him psychic type. I think psychic type would have made the most sense for him. He's a gambler. There was in the original Red and Blue. There's the gambler type of Pokemon trainer, and it was changed to I believe the gamer. Yeah, I know. Anyways, it was changed to the gamer because of censorship. But yeah, just make him psychic type. I think that works.
Decided to go back and make him poison normal due to his background. Ace is a gambler at heart, and he has a very nasty habit of gambling, scamming, seducing, and smooth talking his way to fortune thanks to his insane confidence and good luck. With all of this considered, and all of this being quite unhealthy methods of gaining profit, I decided this was enough to warrant
He has a
poisoning
huge
with
gambling debt, so Psychic is a terrible
Fang
idea.
Min is easily electric type thanks to her being a gamer. And she almost got fighting due to her time in competitive esports and her perk life. But thanks to Fang herself not really being much of a fighter in her lore outside of this, I decided against it and just have her be pure electric. Plus, this would keep up the tradition of gamers and or streamers being electric type focused in Pokemon. I mean, look at Ayano in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Kanari in Legends ZA.
Those two had the biggest beef of all time. You guys just don't know it.
Streamers being electric type focused in Pokemon. I mean, look at Ayano.
Yeah. These two have immense streamer drama.
In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Kanari in Legends ZA. Overall, pretty easy one to pin down for Fang, and there's definitely a case for fighting here, but I'm not gonna go with it here. Speaking of fighting type, however, David is very easily a pure fighting type. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
You know, I say this. I think you could have gone fighting dark, and the reason why, and this is who I would actually pick as David's ace if he had one. Because that's literally what this Pokemon is. It's like a hoodlum. It's crafty. Like, I think you could have gone fighting dark because he does fight. Like, he's on the he generally fights for like good, but like he's also had some like there's that like deep insetted rage he also has. So like, yeah, I could see him being part dark type because of that. I think that would work too.
Dude's the owner of Dead Hard. He often gets into bar fights and is quick to anger and solve problems with his fists. Formerly played rugby until he did one of the biggest infractions in sports as a whole and attacked the ref to get himself permabanned, so on and so forth. This was among the easiest types to assign to a survivor here, along one other survivor we'll get to near the end, and that's considering the fact we're probably gonna get plenty more fighting types later. Quentin was definitely one of the harder survivors to type, and that says something.
Ghost normal for Quentin. No notes.
Since the survivors in general require a lot more leaps in logic to type than the killers to make the video more interesting.
Notes.
In his lore, Quentin studied the dream world frequently to protect Nancy from Freddy's return, even taking time out of the moments he fell asleep and got tortured by him to learn about the realm's weaknesses and how he could exploit them, with the game labeling him a resolute dreamwalker in his description. Ghost and Psychic as the primary types were the main two that came to mind, while Normal was guaranteed the secondary type. After a lot of thinking and talking to some others about this topic, I decided to come to the conclusion of giving him Ghost type due to the dream world supernatural-like nature, as well as Quentin's association with Freddy, who I also gave Ghost as one of his.
You never see him, he's like a specter.
Ghost Normal is the type I'm personally going to go with here, but I do expect a lot of discussion on this one in the comments since, like I said, Quentin was definitely one of the hardest survivors to type in my opinion. Detective Tap is up next, and we have the return of the fighting type thanks to his role in Saw as a police officer.
Okay, Tap. I feel like you could have gone, because of him, like, kind of getting obsessed with Jigsaw and all of, like, the issues he has in the franchise. I say the franchise as if it's not just the first movie. But because of all the issues he ends up having, I think you could have gone with just Dark type for Tap, and it would have been fine. Or Fighting Dark, just like I said for David. But I think, like, because dark doesn't mean evil. Everyone like misconstrues that. Dark doesn't mean evil. It's supposed to be like the opposite of fighting, basically, is what it is. But yeah.
Investigating Jigsaw, having almost gotten him before he ended up breaking free from apprehension and escaping. While he does get discharged after this on account of entering Jigsaw's lair without a warrant and getting his partner killed because of it, he continues the case on his own, leading him to getting overpowered and taking a bullet to the chest and nearly died had the entity not picked him up. Being an officer was already enough to have the fighting type, but the resilience to not let the case go even after being discharged solidifies the type even more in my opinion. Kate is next up, and she will be given Pure Fairy as her typing.
Because she's a singer? Because she's a singer, she has to be... I'm kidding. See, yeah, so Pokemon's weird with this because there's no sound type as much as, like, everyone thinks there should be, including, I'm, like, pretty sure the Pokemon Company wants a sound type. So usually the sound type stand-in is just flat normal. But I think Fairy works, considering, because there's also, like, in Kate's lore, I think it mentions that, like, her music, and I know they're being metaphorical, but, like, it mentions that, like, her music, like, moves people and, like, calms them down and stuff. So, yeah, Fairy works.
Kate is an extremely kind-hearted person who aspired to move people's lives with her music, traveling all over Pennsylvania to play at various venues. From concerts to festivals to bars, she's pretty much got an audience and friends anywhere she went and constantly returned to her hometown whenever she could. All this and her occupation as a musician makes it pretty easy for me to give her Fairy, and while she isn't very magical, she does possess a lot of other traits that the type is associated with. Adam is unfortunately going to be a bit of a boring one by comparison, only being given Pure Normal type.
Adam for normal. He's at school. You could have given Adam fighting. You could have done normal fighting for Adam, I feel. Because he's, like, selfless. That's like the very definition of, like, a fighting type. It's, like, selfless. I don't know if anything else really works. Like, you could maybe argue psychic, but not really. Because he's smart, I guess. I guess pure normal does work for Adam.
On account of just, he's a regular guy. Yeah, he's a teacher who moved to Japan for the job, requiring him to slowly learn Japanese, but this adaptation to Japanese life makes up the bulk of his lore, so yeah, there's not really a whole lot to work with for Adam, so he kind of just has to take normal here and nothing else. Jeff is more interesting to talk about by comparison.
Dark Fairy. I'm going to show, for people who don't know, I'm going to show you the image of a Dark Fairy type. Because I believe there's still only the one. This is the Dark Fairy type Pokemon. You know what? No, I could see Jeff rocking this guy. I could totally see Jeff rocking a Grimmsnarl. You know what? Nope, I dig it. Dark Fairy works.
On Fairy Dark due to Jeff being a kind-hearted person with artistic talent on his side, while Dark is here mainly due to different factors. The big one here being his quiet, reserved nature and constantly having to work around his rough upbringing, as well as his perk Distortion keeping him hidden from killer aura perks. A bit of a stretch, I'm sure, but hey, a lot of this list is. It's a lot harder when the survivor role lacks anything super unique in gameplay outside of their lore and teachables. It's no wonder that there's not really a video on Pokemon survivor types, and it's usually the killers that get this topic. We go back to boring, unfortunately, as despite how interesting Jane is as a survivor, being a nationally famous talk show.
Jane. Could another type have been added here? She's a talk show host. You could have made her normal fairy. Or just fairy. One of the two. Because again, Jigglypuff, like someone brought up earlier. Meloetta is normal fighting. No, she's only normal fighting when she changes forms. Yeah, never mind. I got either normal or normal fairy.
Host with a best-selling book. There's nothing in her lore that could help pin a definitive type down for her, leading me to result in giving her normal type exclusively. There's gotta be something in here I'm overlooking, so if anyone's able to suggest another type for her, please let me know. Jane's a really cool survivor, so it's very annoying to me that I have to give her this type over something else. Ash is next, and he will be joining the fighting type crowd, dude.
Fighting Steel. No, that works because he doesn't have it because of his hand. That's actually that works. This is probably the only Steel type we're gonna see in the whole fucking video too. No, that works. No notes for Ash. I think Fighting Steel works for him perfect.
The chosen one in Evil Dead. He's notorious for being a fighter, master of improv, and having the power of God, bullshit, and the Evil Dead writers on his side to get him through a lot of the fights he gets involved in. As for his secondary type, Steel was picked here due to his resilience, but also aided in due to having a prosthetic hand. Also, little bit of DBD trivia here. This hand on Ash is the reason why Clown has two different Moris depending on the survivor's gender, as the male survivors had to get their other hand become the victim of the finger amputation because otherwise Clown would be cutting off a metal finger from Ash. Overall, Ash is a fun character, and I think this type would make the most sense for him. Nancy and Steve will be together since both of them will.
Nancy and Steve fighting type. I feel like you could have done more here. I'm just trying to think harder about it. Fighting makes sense 100% for Steve. I don't know how I feel like about Nancy getting fighting type, though. Yeah, Mr. Slashy. Slashy Williams, whatever you want to call him. I don't really have any notes to this. Like, I can't think of anything else, but I feel like there's another type that works.
Be pure fighting types. Steve is the more obvious one since he was a high school jock prior to getting humbled by Jonathan in Season 1, and he was also brave enough to beat the shit out of a Demogorgon with a spiked bat. While Nancy probably would have been normal if it wasn't for her locking the fuck in after Barbara got killed by said Demogorgon and she learned she's amazing with guns, being a major contributor in a lot of the more serious fights in the show, especially against Henry. Overall, I feel both of these are self-explanatory since both have extensive experience in fighting, just in different ways since Steve is the more of a melee fighter while Nancy is ranged because of her experience with firearms. Yui is up next, and while she was extremely close to getting
Fairy Steel for you. I don't know why Fairy. Steel kind of makes sense, I guess, because she's a mechanic. But Fairy?
Fighting due to a fight with a stalker in her apartment, I decided to change it to Fairy on account of having a lot of fighting types already, as well as the fact that she and her gang, the Sakura 7, use their winnings and influence in the racing scene to support women against their own stalkers and abusers, eventually their brand of pink becoming synonymous with women empowerment. As for her secondary type, Steel's the obvious choice due to the fact that Yui is very much into motorcycles and street racing with them. Not a whole lot else to say
fair
on
enough.
that, really.
Fair enough.
Zarina is next, and honestly, there's not a lot to work with regarding typings for her.
Zarina. I mean, she disguises herself a lot. You could have gone with, like, you could have gone with dark type or psychic type. God, survivors are hard. I mean, I feel like psychic, dark, or fairy would have worked here. She could have been a Alolan 9. Let's make her ice
Originally,
fairy.
I was just gonna go pure normal and call it a day, but when reading through her lore and seeing she focuses a lot of her documentarian work on exposing the full truth on subjects she films, I decided maybe fairy could work with her instead. Like I said, Zarina was a hard one for me to give.
I think similar to Jeff, you could have done Fairy Dark because she again the lore like does go into like not too much depth, but it does mention a lot that she kind of like hides herself, hides who she really is to like fit in. That's how she becomes a reporter. So like I feel like that aspect like leans more into the dark.
A type 2, so if there's a better option you think would fit her better, please let me know. Cheryl is next, and she took me a long ass time to decide on a type 4 since
I feel like Ghost Fairy would have worked better instead of Psychic. Someone is gonna actually me here, but Cheryl is technically dead, isn't she? Am I wrong with it? Isn't she technically dead? She's rebirthed from Heather. So like she's a second because it's like the whole plot of the third game, isn't it? Am I wrong? So like If I'm not wrong, I feel like Ghost could have worked. Ghost Fairy or Ghost Psychic could have
I'm
worked.
unfamiliar with Silent Hill 3 and its
Fuck it,
plot.
have a dragon.
The first type I decided on for her was Fairy, thanks to her childishness, naivety, and her remarkable amount of kindness, and her
Bill should have been a dragon type. Hear me out.
time in Silent Hill reflecting her fear of not being ready to be an adult. While the second type I decided on Psychic. I tried the best I could with trying to find a reason for this type in her home game, but the best I could think of would be that she's the target of a cult trying to use her as a sacrifice to start up their twisted version of Paradise. As a result of my uncertainty and lack of information, I decided to just go with this type because of her perks and DBD instead. I did say perks were legal for this video, it's just been a minute since we did. Plus this survivor was a hard one for me to type anyway, so I sorta had to grasp at straws here. Unfortunately, we go from pretty cool survivor to a not
Felix is steel type because he's an architect. I swear if that's his reasoning. I swear to God if that's his reasoning.
a very interesting one in Felix, and the only type that I found fit him besides maybe normal was pure steel. If you're curious about this is because Felix, amidst his trauma from losing his parents to the entity on Dire Island alongside Elodie, he grew up to become an architect.
I'm fucking...
This occupation heavily involves planning, designing, and overseeing the construction of buildings, which I figured would be enough to justify either steel or electric on him. In the end, I did choose steel since it just sounded like it fit the description more than electric did. Before we forget about her like we did the Binding of Kin chapters.
Oh, Elodie for Ground Dark. That's an interesting pick. Ground Dark for Elodie is cool because she's basically like Laura Croft. That's what she's supposed to be. So Ground Dark. Okay.
Elodie is up and she's been given Ground Dark. Ground is because Elodie does a lot of expeditions around the world, collecting various artifacts and just generally exploring a lot. As for her Dark type, this is due to being an occult investigator as well as having suffered the same backstory as Felix did. But whereas Felix was able to keep moving forward with his life, Elodie let it fester and consume her life in the pursuit of trying to figure out what the hell happened.
Okay,
leaving
I can
her
dig
getting
that.
ambushed by the Black Veil and eventually ended up getting taken by the entity. So overall, I'd say these two types fit her decently well with this information. I can totally understand if you thought Jeff's Fairy Dark type
Eugene for Dark Fairy. Okay.
typing was a bit of a stretch, particularly on the dark side of things. However, will you say the same about this type also being on Yunjin?
So, chat, does Grimmsnarl work better for Jeff or for Yunjin? Does Grimmsnarl work better for Jeff or Yunjin? I'm leaning more towards Yunjin, honestly.
This survivor is the picture-perfect example of what I'd imagine a dark fairy type to be. She's heavily involved in the music industry as Trickster's manager. She's
Really,
self-centered
Jeff?
and primarily
Alright.
focused on advancing her career to the point of
It's the hair,
being
isn't it? It's the
an
hair.
accomplice of Trickster's murders, finding his USB if people screams and not reporting him. Hell, even when Trickster murders the entire Mighty One staff and is preparing to finish off Yunjin before the entity arrives to take them both, Yunjin hates him not for his murders during their tours, but because he ruined her career and even welcomed the entity taking them both away since it gives her a chance to get back at him. If this doesn't scream Fairy Dark, I don't know what does. Jill and Leon are going here together because they're both going to have
Fighting type for Jill and Leon. A shiny Grim... Yeah, she would have a shiny Grimmsnarl. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there's... Leon's too cookie-cutter to be anything other than fighting. And to a degree, so is Jill. I can't really think of anything else for Jill.
the exact same type. Leon is a police officer, and Jill is a STARS member who had to fight her way through Raccoon City's zombie outbreak with the hulking BOW that is Nemesis on her ass the entire time. Not really sure what else to say here, honestly. Pretty fast one. Following that short one is Michaela, and she's a pretty easy one as well.
Psychic for Michaela, mate. You could have gone Psychic Ghost, but Psychic works.
Well, being a pure psychic type. This is largely because of her love of the supernatural, as well as being the survivor who introduced boons into the game. She literally has 2 of them on hand as teachables, while her last perk is an aura perk for revealing objects around her. Ghost was an option since she told a lot of ghost stories while working at Moonstone Cafe, but I feel like that one was a bit of a stretch here, so I decided pure psychic it was. Oh boy, this is gonna be a rough one.
Dark type for Jonah. Sold. Fucking sold. Electric because of he's like a math genius, but dark type because of the war criminal stuff. Okay, I see
Jonah's
you.
up, and his typing is a rather interesting type combo. Electric is up first as his primary type since he worked as a codebreaker, decoding numbers, archived footage, and intercepted messages into information for himself and the CIA to use. As for the other type, the dark typing crops up here because of an incident where he accidentally decoded multiple decoy messages for the CIA, leading to a bombing of an incorrect location and taking a massive amount of innocent lives. From the wording of Jonah's lore, as weird and honestly not very good as it is somewhat implying the CIA in this story is corrupted from Black Veil influence, aided further by when Jonah attempts to siphon money out of the CIA's funding to help those affected by the incident, only to get an assassination attempt on him in retaliation, as well as him being on a mission prior to the accidental bombing one that almost exposed rich and wealthy people around the globe. Regardless of whether he tried to course correct this mistake and it sounding like it was an unintentional thing due to finding out later the info was falsified and by that time it was too late, it doesn't change the fact that Jonah still majorly contributed to this event happening, so I'm refusing to budge on leaving out Dark type, making Electric Dark my final choice for him. On a much lighter note, Yuichi is a pretty interesting survivor.
Water psychic for Yoichi. I was wondering if anyone was gonna get water. No, Yoichi makes the most sense for water. Motherfucker, he's wearing a rain jacket. Come on.
About being a survivor from Sadako's curse when she initially killed her parents. Water psychic is my choice for him. Water being due to his DVD exclusive expanded lore making him a marine biologist. Psychic, on the other hand, is granted to him thanks to his descriptions, constantly mentioning he is a psychic, as well as on top of his perks being related to auras, boons, and uniquely to Parental Guidance's description, the ability to hear the dead. That one has nothing to do with gameplay, I just thought it was cool, and helps makes the case here since, it's one of his teachables. Overall, Water Psychic is the final choice for Yuichi, and I'd say it fits him quite well. Hattie's up next, and I think an easy type combination to give her would be Dark Psychic.
Dark psychic. Does Dark fit Hattie? I don't think, because she's not, mischievous or, evil or anything. She runs a podcast, for God's sakes. Ironically, I think fighting psychic would have made the most sense. Or fighting psychic, I feel like would have made the most sense because she fights against dark, dark types. Like she fights against vampires and such.
This is thanks to a special characteristic she has in her lore, the ability to detect overlaps. For those unfamiliar, overlaps are basically pockets in reality where the entity's realm bleeds into the real world, oftentimes where the divide between the two worlds are weak. Example of some places in universe that have overlaps include the Garden of Joy from Dredge's lore, Greenville's Theater from Sable's lore, the Dragon's Tooth Island from Houndmaster's lore, and there's an unconfirmed theory to my knowledge
Podcasts
that
are evil. Fair enough.
as well. Hattie has the effects to detect, see, and feel the residual effects of these overlaps in her head, using them to start a highly successful podcasting business. Given that the overlaps are related to the entity, the ability to not only sense them, but visualize them to herself as well, this gives me enough reason to give her Dark Psychic as her type overall. Ada's next, and a good type that I think would work would be...
Now, fighting Dark for Ada makes sense. I still think David should have also gotten this, but yeah, fighting Dark makes sense. I don't know, if... I feel like a lot of the good Ada does is convenient. It's usually not, something she intends.
Fighting Dark. The Resident Evil characters tend to be involved with a lot of combat, and Ada isn't an exception here, hence the fighting part. But that Dark type is thanks to her allegiances being questionable, her sneakiness, and her anonymity during her missions. It also doesn't help that she's been formerly involved with Albert Wesker's work as well, which, given how far gone that guy is with Ouroboros and all these reasons seem justified for her to have this as a secondary type here. Rebecca will be a quick one thanks to her time in Stars as a medic.
Whittle Becky Chambers gets fairy type? Really? We're just gonna do that to Whittleback each. All right.
Being granted fairy type. Her youth, playfulness, and her kindness also contribute to this type as well. Honestly, there's not really a whole lot else to say here. In order to save on time, however, I'm going to include Aurelia for this section as well, since she also worked in the medical field as a paramedic, so she will also have the fairy type as well. On top of that, Aurelia's perks are majorly focused on altruism and healing, further emphasizing this type. Overall, even though Rebecca's a licensed character and Aurelia's an original, both of them have medical backgrounds, which is what's making me cover them together to save time, since I just have similar things to say about them. Vittorio is a weird survivor to talk about in general due
Ground Psychic for Vittorio. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. No, I think that works. I think you could have, for the sake of variety, I think you could have made him rock psychic, but
there
yeah.
being a lot of clashing elements with his character. Someone from medieval times wearing modern day clothing is off-putting to someone who hasn't read his lore, and that will play a big role into Vittorio's typing. The more straightforward one I'm giving him is ground thanks to his home era, but the secondary type I'm electing to give him psychic. Aside from the pretty sweet tattoos he has on him, Vittorio has a lot of knowledge regarding the realm, the observers, and other dimensions thanks to his personal studies. This is in tandem with his perks.
Bro would have a Claydol. He would have a Claydol.
Is pretty good justification for psychic as a secondary type, so that's what we're going to be going with here. Thalita and Renato are being covered together due to
flying. There's a type I wasn't expecting to see. Hi Yoshi.
Siblings, but also because I'm just going to be saying the exact same things about them. They're both pure normal types due to them just being regular people, not a whole lot to really go off of regarding lore and perks. But one benefit of their lore is that it states that the two are both kite fighters and ran a kite shop prior to getting taken while running from Skull Merchant.
Weird.
There's not really a whole lot else to go off of here.
What a random thing.
Flying type is a secondary type to reflect this. Gabriel Soma is up next, and this is a weird case where the...
Okay. Yeah, it's Ketchup's video. Okay. Gabe being electric, I think you could have done steel instead of one of these. I'm curious on the reason for poison, but steel could have worked because he's technically a clone. We don't know the cloning process. So I'm assuming there's some mechanical stuff going on. It's not just,
The character we're talking about isn't exactly human. Well, he is, but he's a clone of one, manufactured alongside the rest of his crew in Hux A7 robots to colonize Davarka. Being an engineer meant to maintain the robots and other machinery in the colonization process, electric was a great type to start with. As for a secondary type, I was thinking of ways to represent the clone part of them, and to be honest, not a whole lot of options were really fitting here. The closest I thought of was poison because of everything around him, from his very appearance to his...
You could have done bug. Bug could have worked because it's kind of like a hive mind situation. But I understand it. But I would have maybe steel bug instead of electric poison.
Memories being complete fabrications by the parent company behind the colonization, Huxley Industries, in his creation. As a result, the final type I'm going for with Gabriel is electric poison. Nicolas Cage. This one won't take long. Is an actual
No. That is the Cage Man. All right. That man is normal dragon, and I will have no say on otherwise. I don't have to explain myself as to why Nicolas Cage is a normal dragon type. Okay? Okay? Y'all want me to show you what a normal dragon type looks like? Yeah, I'll show you what a normal dragon type looks like. Yeah. See? It's Nicolas Cage. It looks just like him. Don't tell me it doesn't. Am I joking? You'll never know.
IRL guy who gave the go-ahead to be included in this game.
Because of bees
around the world, and his perks reflect this by not only being genuinely good in their own right, but also being extremely funny thematically, both in descriptions and their use cases in-game. Dramaturgy is the speedy gambling perk, scene partner is every Steve, Lisa, and Robin Main's BFF, and plot twist is the self-downing perk. Where am I going with this? Well, Nicolas Cage is pretty much the normal type of the video. The perks don't do much to help out, plus the minor detail that this guy actually exists outside of the game, so what do you want me to do here?
I think a lot of us forget
Eleanor
about
Ripley is next, and she's another survivor that's joining.
Because she's an engineer. You could have done steel fighting, I feel.
The fighting type crowd thanks to her experience in fending off and surviving against the Xenomorph, being the only survivor of the original Nostromo crew. Even if her lore in DVD ends after the first Alien movie.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Jonesy lives. Okay, she wasn't the only. Jonesy lives.
Ends, she goes on to face several more Xenos later in the franchise, so I would still count this. However, I'm making fighting her secondary type, as I think a decent fit for the main type would maybe be electric. This one's largely one of those types that I thought was because of the environment around her, plus she has chemical traps, so maybe that could amount to something. I'll go with it for the video, but if anyone's got a better idea for the type, let me know in the comments. I have never played an Alan Wake game in my
Normal dark for Alan. I think just because of like the duality of Mr. Scratch, I think that works. Steel fire? Oh yeah, steel fire because she uses a flamethrower. No, that's perfect, Yoshi. No, that's perfect. Yeah, yeah, no, that works. Yeah, Nicolas Cage should have been second because he can summon items out of thin air with trauma.
my fucking life. I've never even heard of this guy prior to his announcement in DBD. This was also the same patch Hillbilly got reworked and Sadako got her second rework, so I genuinely forgot he existed for a couple months after that patch dropped. This is
It's Alan Wake,
I
man.
know nothing about Alan Wake as a character, so forgive me if I completely butcher this section. The first type I picked for him was normal because of his status as an author and the fact that he seems like a regular guy. While his secondary type, I decided to go with...
I mean, I think Ghost Dark could have worked, but the only reason I'm leaning towards Normal Dark, and it's probably not the same reasoning as Ketchup, but the reason I'm leaning towards Normal Dark is because of the duality he has with Mr. Scratch. That's it.
Dark, but this case is a rare moment of not because he's evil or has some major trauma or being self-centered or whatever. The main plot of the Alan Wake games involves Alan's best-selling novel being brought to life as a means to try and get a dark presence to escape a dimension called the Dark Place. And at least in the second game, Alan spends quite a bit of time within the Dark Place trying to rewrite the ending to the story to get rid of the dark presence. This is to say, the Dark type is thanks to his time and experience trapped in the Dark Place, with his DVD trailer suggesting he might have wrote himself into the realm. Overall, I know basically nothing about Alan Wake, both the guy and the games, but from what research I did, I figured Normal Dark could work decently well on him.
There's a lot of fucking
Speaking
survivors
of
in
Dark
this game.
type, everyone's favorite...
I hate that it's right. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate that it's right. I hate that Dark type fits Sable. I hate it. I hate it. I also hate that I know what her ace would be. Y'all know what fucking Sable's ace would be? I can tell you right now. This. Absol. Absol would be Sable's ace. It would. You can't convince me otherwise. It's so edgy and cool. And no one understands it.
Goth Girl is next, and yeah, I don't really have to yap much here, do I? Sable's lore makes it clear she's really into intense horror stories and films, dark subject matter, the occult, urban legends, and a whole lot of other stuff to the point she has made an entire radio show in her attic about it. When Michaela went missing and Sable eventually found an overlap inside Greenville,
absolutely,
she allowed it to take her into the realm. Hell, even her perks all relate to the basement, often considered the most dangerous location on every map in the game, with Sable also being the one who introduced invocations to the game. With all the
I don't think Ghost works for Sable. I think it could work more for Michaela, but like, because Sable doesn't actually do anything supernatural, does she? Isn't it more just convenient?
Evidence of dark type presented here, there's not a lot of space for anything to dual type her with, so Sable is going to be a pure dark type here. The Trooper next, and this is a rather interesting...
Okay, fairy psychic for the troop. I mean, one of them's literally an elf.
Case.
Yeah.
They're licensed characters that were custom made for DBD thanks to the nature of the Dungeons & Dragons chapter, and Vecna being the main tangible character to pull from there, and that's only because he is a perfect fit for the killer role. Maybe a little too perfect based on the Mark of Negation. That said, one of the members here is Astri, who is an elf, so that plus
Oh yeah, she does have invocation. Yeah, no, Dark Ghost might actually work for
Astri
Sable.
being the main survivor rather than Baramar made me think Fairy could work as the main type. As for the second one, according to their lore, Baramar is proficient with Arcana, and this proficiency and wanting to show off being why the entity grabbed them in the first place. And their perks Still Sight and Mirrored Illusion are making me think of having Psychic as a secondary type, so that's what I ended up doing here. Overall, pretty straightforward type despite being a weird case in the licensed survivor group. Following them is Lara Croft, who will very obviously be part of the fighting.
Hey, we got a rock type. it took almost 30 minutes, but we got a rock type, and I actually think it works.
Type crowd since she is basically the survivor, so there's not much discussion to be had on the main type front. As a secondary type, however, Lara is quite the adventurer, but also an archaeologist as well, so I think this would make rock or ground a strong contender for the secondary type. We used ground before on some other survivors and killers in the past, so for the purposes of this video, I'm electing to give her rock in order to say that this type finally got to see some play.
I think it just works. I'm going to be honest with you. I think rock works better than grounds.
But in all honesty, you could make a case for either on Lara. Overall, my final type for her is fighting rock. Trevor Belmont's up, and given how Castlevania is a gothic
Steel? Is it because of the whip? Is that why we're... I mean, Dark, I'm cool. We're giving him Steel because of the whip. I feel like you could have done, like, Fire, maybe, because of, like, the vampires. You could have done, like... You could have done, like, Flying Dark.
adventure platformer with a couple horror elements here and there, along with the fact that Trevor and the Belmont clan in general around his era were outcast and not treated very well despite being the main people who could get rid of Dracula. I'm willing to give Dark type as a secondary type. His main type, however, I'm electing to give Steel due to his resilience, as well as him and the rest of the Belmont clan being the users of the Vampire Killer, an enchanted whip that's extremely effective against creatures of the night.
Water for holy water? Yeah. Steel water.
Many depictions of the whip, at least from what I've seen, have the whip to be shown as more like a chain whip as opposed to your traditional one. But thanks to this thing's appearance being inconsistent across Castlevania titles, Trevor having Steel type can be a bit subjective. But I'm still going to go with it for the video though, so my final pick on him is Steel Dark. Tori Kane. Gee, I wonder what the evil cult survivor's type was going to be.
Make her Dark Fairy. I swear to God, if you don't make her Dark Fairy.
This might be controversial, but what if, hear me out, we make her Grass type? Tori is very obviously Dark type, and Dark...
I don't know, you could have done Dark Grass.
Type alone.
I don't know.
Like I said, she's a cult member who actively worked her way up the hierarchy and nearly made it to being a killer in this game because her final test to be one of the elites in the Black Talon, aka the Black Veil if you're attentive to this game's lore, was to kill Hattie's podcasting partner and brother, Jordan, after he nearly exposed them after Hattie got taken by the entity. Her hesitation to finish the job on account of being her first murder was what landed her as a survivor, but the fact that she went this long and far while not regretting anything even after getting taken, even outright begging the entity to let her be a killer in some of her lobby lines, solidifies the fact that Tori is not escaping the Dark type allegations anytime soon. Skipping past Aurelia because I already yapped about her.
Michonne and Rick are fighting ground. Why is Rick ground type? Am I missing something? I didn't watch much of Walking Dead, so I don't really know enough to say anything.
During Rebecca's section, the two Walking Dead survivors are up next, and both of them are primarily fighting types due to their survivalist backgrounds during that show's zombie outbreak. Not much else to really say, but Rick in particular will also be getting the ground type as a secondary type, although admittedly this is primarily because of apocalyptic ingenuity. Similar
Okay, fair enough,
Wake,
fair enough.
I've never seen Walking Dead in my life, so I really don't know what to go off of here.
You coulda get. Doesn't Michonne usually use a katana? Couldn't you? Because he walks on the ground. There we go. Could you? You could argue Steel type for Michonne, maybe because of the katana.
V, I would imagine, is a pretty easy survivor to give a type to, given past reasonings for characters with similar backgrounds.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you fairy normal for V.
Fairy is the primary type I picked because of her musical background.
You know, I will catch up if you're listening to this. By the way, I will give you this. This was hard to even critique. Just so you understand, I get that this was hard to make in the first place. This has been hard to critique.
Being an expert with the drums and being part of a band known as Axe Kick, spending all of her downtime helping the band reach international fame. However, that's all you really get out of her lore-wise in this grand scheme of things, so I just decided to give her normal as a secondary type to help break up some of the other...
Steel. Why Steel Fairy, Yoshi? Why Steel? I'm curious on Steel. Because of the drums?
Pure fairies on this list. I'd say the typing works overall.
Oh, yeah, they could have done rock because of rock bands. Play into the pun. Because she's metal. Fuck it, just make her steel rock. Just make her steel rock because she's metal.
But you could definitely ditch either type on her and go solo as well.
Jeff and you were both Dark Fairy. Both of them actually were.
11 is a pure psychic type. That's the end of the discussion.
Yeah. No, just yeah.
Dustin, on the other hand, required a little bit of...
Electric normal for Dustin. I'm not gonna lie, you could have done Electric Dark for Dustin. This fucker's a gremlin. I hate this guy.
Extra digging to get something out of type-wise, but not by a whole lot. He's proficient with electronics and gadgets, so I figured Electric could work as a primary type. That said, while he's the smartest of the base 4 kids in the friend group in the show, he is still in the kid friend group with Lucas, Mike, and Will. They don't do a lot of the major fighting in the show, that stuff being reserved for characters like Jim Hopper and the older characters. Thanks to that, Dustin's unfortunately being given normal type as the secondary type, but at least he has something to work with type-wise out of the kids aside from maybe Will being partially a psychic type. Everyone in that friend group would be at minimum normal types. And finally, our latest survivor on the PTB, Kwon Tae-young, has a little more to go off.
I literally know nothing about this character. I have not read the lore, so I have no opinion on this.
Than in his base lore, thanks to a webcomic that featured him that released before the PTB did. And I figured a fitting type for him would be Electric Fairy. Electric is here due to his experience and expertise in creating virtual AI idols, and the Fairy type as a secondary type comes from his latest and most advanced model that would be his pride and joy until it began to inherit the negative traits of Trickster, Mina. This model was meant to be a female version of the K-pop idol that was meant to keep his edgy
Oh, he's an AI tech bro.
appeal while suppressing
Dark
his
type.
negative traits, allowing her to be controlled by Mighty One. Due to Kwon's heavy association and attachment to Mina prior to her starting to inherit Trickster's psychopathic behavior, as well as Kwon just getting a girlfriend, I decided Fairy would be a good fit as a secondary type, making the final type Electric Fairy. And that wraps up the Survivor side of things. This video took a long while to make, just like the killer version of this topic, so if you enjoyed and you want to see more, feel free.
Okay, alright. Please go check out Ketchup, by the way. He makes really good videos. Honestly, he does. I love his stuff. They're kind of like Asimov's videos. That's not me diminishing or anything, I'm just saying. But yeah, go check out Ketchup for real.